Hello everyone. It's ungodly hot today. 32 degrees might not seem like much, but in this climate, where we have winters with 20 degrees below the freezing, oh well. 32 degrees, by the way, for the Fahrenheit peasants, it's over 89 degrees. Anyway, I'm sure most, if not everyone on this side of the internet is familiar with the political compass test. In case somebody lives under a rock, here's a short recap. Political compass test is a series of statements which touch on possible positions regarding one's view on society, economics, politics, government, morals and beliefs. One's position on each statement can be qualified as strong or weak, either agreement or disagreement. The result shows one's supposed position on the spectrum between left and right, but also up and down. Up, of course, being authoritarian sympathies, and down as libertarian sympathies. In other words, the compass is not only designed to show where you stand on the question of how much should the government control the economics, but also how much should it control the individual citizen. It's quite easy to find extreme examples of up left, down left or down right. However, we kind of lack examples of true upright persons. Don't get me wrong, I'm aware there are people who are characterized as far-right authoritarians. The point is, these people are often assigned that label arbitrary. To me, it seems it's nearly impossible to control society without controlling the economy. Similarly, it seems impossible to have functional society without any control over either one of those. Almost as if every extreme position will result in society falling apart. Don't need to agree with me on this, it's just an observation. Anyway, let's find out if I'm a fucking Nazi. There are forces out there who'd love to have people believe that anyone who disagrees with them is a Nazi. I will try to give my honest opinion regarding every single statement on the test before moving on. That way, we should avoid misunderstandings and make things less ambiguous. Let's get started. If economic globalization is inevitable, it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interests of transnational corporations. If it is in fact inevitable, then I would agree. We should make sure that the balance, the regulations put in place, favor benefit of societies integrating rather than profit margins. I would always support my country, whether it was right or wrong. My country cannot be right or wrong. The government and its policy, sure. I support my country because I value the culture which made me into a good person I recognize myself as. I don't necessarily agree with the government all the time. Or does it supposed to mean it's right or wrong to support the country? Who's deciding that? Myself? What if I do? Would it look like this? That Hitler sure is wrong to murder all the Jews. Let me join the SS. Sieg Heil. Right? Doesn't make sense. No one chooses his or her country of birth. It is foolish to be proud of it. This kind of continues the thought I started in the previous comment. Nobody chooses their birth country nor their growing up country, but we can recognize the outcomes as positive in the contrast to other possibilities. It is not foolish if I'm proud of my country, for it is not North Korea It is not Saudi Arabia. We didn't have Hitler. We didn't have slaves. That's kind of good. I'm proud of it. Our race has many superior qualities compared with other races. I'm kind of a race denialist. Okay, let me elaborate. I am not convinced that current races are grounded in biology. They do seem to be more grounded in social dynamics and history. And biology is the standard I go with on this one. 25,000 years ago, I would recognize Homo sapiens neanderthalensis as a race. Today, most people just look at what color you are. Don't matter how many times your ancestors mixed with other. You're too dark skin or too bright skin to be this or that race. Completely useless. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Enemy of my enemy is probably my next enemy. It's okay to cooperate to take out the big guy, but one ought to recognize the fact that once the common enemy is gone, someone have to be the next big guy. Military action that defies international law is sometimes justified. The law, no matter how well thought out, very unlikely would be perfect. While I cannot come up with an idea from the top of my head, there's probably a possible scenario in which defying current international law would be justified. It is not so much different than defying domestic law. It's not okay to steal unless you steal a loaf of bread to feed your family. While steal, frowned upon, it's more justifiable than stealing caviar to feed your cat. There is now worrying fusion of information and entertainment. I think there's a problem of ideological bias in the way that information is presented. However, to spread news efficiently, it is actually beneficial if they are presented in an entertaining way. Making news into memes often improves public reception. Making news into memes often improves public reception, for the public is desensitized to the news in the ocean of information. People are ultimately divided more by class than nationality. Okay. People are ultimately divided by their ideas and culture more than class or nationality. While rich people prefer company of other rich people, there's more poor working class people. Not in my experience. Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. If you gave a job to everyone, you're not creating wealth. There's no demand for the number of services and work power provided. If on the other hand, you control the value of money, you create incentive to invest and ultimately create demand for labor force. Because corporations cannot be trusted to voluntarily protect the environment, they require regulations. Nobody can be trusted to take it upon themselves to protect the environment. I mean, everyone should take it upon themselves, but you cannot just trust them. Everyone is an individual, and corporations are run by individuals. Certain policies need to be beyond the choice of an individual, and environmental protection is one of the very few issues I would put in that category. From each according to his ability, to each according to his need. It's a fundamentally good idea. The statement sounds good on its surface. However, any principle needs to be applied on a case-to-case basis. The world is not a black and white place. A certain spectrum of grays have to be considered. Letting a train kill 1 to save 5 is not the same as harvesting organs from 1 healthy patient to save lives of 5 that need transplantation, even if the math is the same. It is a sad reflection on our society that something as basic as drinking water is now bottled, branded consumer product. It is actually a very good indicator of how advanced we are. We live in a society in which common folk is so wealthy they can afford such frivolous expenses as branded water, especially as the virtually inexpensive, almost free tap water is available. Even rainwater can be collected and used. Presumably, an individual could collect, brand and sell said rainwater. That is wonderful. Land shouldn't be commodity to be bought and sold. I believe it is absolutely essential to one's freedom to be able to have ownership over the land one inhabits. It is regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to their society. It is regrettable that not everyone have the same opportunity to make a fortune for themselves. Other than that, even investment requires some skill. There's many examples of people who inherited fortunes or won a lottery and then misappropriate them, losing all of it. We can make an argument that there should be no special rules for different kinds of investments and forms of earning. For example, a person playing the stock market in Poland could be taxed differently than a person trading cryptocurrencies. Even the market principles are the same. In the latter example, you're supposedly taxed from each transaction value. Imagine 2,000 transactions that give you profit of around $500 could require paying tax as high as $100,000. Crazy, right? Protectionism is sometimes necessary in trade. Country's government first responsibility is that to the people of the country. Government should make sure people cannot be exploited by unbalanced trade practices. The only social responsibility of a company should be to deliver profit to its shareholders. Companies have no social responsibilities. They have legal responsibilities, one of which is to deliver profit to shareholders. The rich are too highly taxed. Well, that depends on the country. Some places they very well might be. Other places they absolutely don't pay their fair share, mostly due to various loopholes in tax codes. Those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care. Look, public healthcare should give everyone access to the highest possible standard delivery en masse. However, private options should be available. There is 99 surgeons with an A rank and one surgeon with an A+ rank. What is the motivation to become rank A+ surgeon if everyone is treated the same? Possibility to negotiate their salary would give motivation for medical staff to improve their qualifications, and also for the government to invest in them. Government should penalize businesses that mislead the public. Predatory practices in business should be penalized under the law. What good is a contract that one is tricked into signing? A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predatory multinationals to create monopolies. Well, monopolies are antithetical to free market. To counteract attempts to create these, some restrictions very well can protect freedom of the market. The freer the market, the freer the people. This statement is too broad. There are circumstances in which market more free means less freedom for the people. Other times, restriction bind the people's action. Abortion, when the woman's life is not threatened, should always be illegal. I suppose if I can come up with a single instance in which I would allow for abortion, in a circumstance where female's life is not threatened, then I'm super far left, full on libertarian, right? Let's see. Generally, I am pro-choice. If it couldn't survive outside the womb, you don't need to carry it. But let's find something less liberal. In case of incestual rape, I think at least then abortion should be as an available option. I am such a lefty. This is good. All authority should be questioned. How does one legitimize an authority? But by questioning it. It is extremely important to question all authorities. Otherwise, how do you know who's the fraud? An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. No fuck you. I don't think vindictiveness is just a fulfillment of primal instincts. Taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theaters or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis. Mission of promoting an education in culture and history is in benefit to society. A healthy degree of national identity is key. Schools should not make classroom attendance compulsory. High school up, this could apply. However, everyone should be obligated to acquire at least a basic set of skills in their elementary and middle school years. All people have their rights, but it is better for all of us that different sorts of people should keep to their own kind. I don't know what that even means. People should stick to those they feel most comfortable with. Good parents sometimes have to spank their children. Good parents can discipline their bastard children without using violence, however little force they would use. It is natural for children to keep some secrets from their parents. It is absolutely natural for anyone to pursue privacy from others. Even children have that need. It is up to parents if and when they would grant their children that right. However, nonetheless, children will try. Possessing cannabis for personal use should not be a criminal offense. Any naturally occurring drug should be decriminalized and legalized, taxed and regulated. The prime function of schooling should be to equip the future generation to find jobs. Well, this depends on the education level. In primary school and secondary school, one should be taught to understand the world and society. In high school, one should be taught how to think for themselves and be full adult. In tech schools, trade schools, and other specialized schools, one should be equipped with skills required for certain occupations. That's kind of obvious. People with serious inheritable disabilities should not be allowed to reproduce. We don't want the government to declare who can and who cannot be allowed to reproduce. There are forces in this world who want you to believe that being different color or different sex is a disability. Would you like to translate it into government limiting those people's choices? The most important thing for children to learn is to accept discipline. I am not quite sure which type of discipline they are referring to. Self-discipline is a key to success. However, discipline, understood as submission to authority, is hardly a good idea. I would say the most important thing to learn is the ability to think and analyze. There are no savage or civilized people. There are only different cultures. There are absolutely cultures superior and inferior. Those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society's support. To an extent, in current system, everybody should receive support, just not indefinitely. One day, when technology renders all human labor obsolete, we want working system in place to make sure we don't just have a bunch of people eat each other to survive. When you are troubled, it is better not to think about it, but to keep busy with more cheerful things. All problems have solutions. One will not solve their problems if they don't think about them. Analyze them. Challenge them. First-generation immigrants can never fully integrate with their new country. They most absolutely can. My partner is a first-generation immigrant, and besides some understandable problems with language, she's doing just fine. And if one day I decide to move a country, I too will quickly integrate. What's good for the most successful corporation is always, ultimately, good for all of us. No. Corporations cannot be expected to care about anything but their numbers. Nor they should. No broadcasting institution, however independent its content, should receive public funding. I found it permissible for a broadcasting institution to receive public funding, as long as their mission is to promote the national identity, awareness of culture and history. Our civil liberties are being excessively curbed in the name of counterterrorism. We are certainly willing to give up too many liberties in the name of security. There's definitely a sweet spot in which the benefits of liberty and benefits of security are in perfect balance. A significant advantage of one-party state is that it avoids all the arguments that delay progress in democratic political system. Progress that the citizen have no control over its direction is not progress at all. Although the electronic age makes official surveillance easier, only wrongdoers need to be worried. The government have no business to look into me without a justifiable, probable cause. The death penalty should be an option for the most serious crimes. Some studies show that even 4% of the people executed turn out to be innocent. I do not want my tax money go to killing the innocent. In a civilized society, one must always have people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded. I don't know if that is the case, so I will not agree. It is true that a society will generate hierarchy. I'm not convinced to whether such hierarchy would emerge at every instance or not. Abstract art that doesn't represent anything shouldn't be considered art at all. Art is subjective. What's art for one is horseshit to other. In criminal justice, punishment should be more important than rehabilitation. In most cases, I believe it is better to focus on rehabilitation. Even death penalty is not a sufficient deterrent against crime. Punishment don't seem to be fixing anything. It is a waste of time to try to rehabilitate some criminals. Perhaps it is impossible to turn some people, but that should not be an excuse for not trying. The business person and the manufacturer are more important than the writer and the artist. It don't matter how many resources and gadgets I gather. If I'm bored, I might as well be poor. Mothers may have careers, but their first duty is to be homemakers. I think both parents may have careers, and it's up to them which one focuses more on their children. However, ultimately, they have responsibility to put their children over their careers, if they choose to have them. Multinational companies are unethically exploiting the plant genetic resources of developing countries. I don't know about ethics, but corporations will always try to take advantage of lax regulation in developing countries. Making peace with the establishment is an important aspect of maturity. Making peace with the establishment is a symptom of giving up on one's ideals. It is akin to say that Jews should make peace with the Nazi in 1930s Germany. Astrology accurately explains many things. It most accurately explains why the Dark Ages lasted so long. You cannot be moral without being religious. Depends on your definition of morality. For me, morality isn't necessarily dependent on religion. I define it as a set of values which inform actions of an individual living in a society. Charity is better than social security as a means of helping the genuinely disadvantaged. I am yet to see a charity that does that. Some people are naturally unlucky. If one circumstance they are born into can be considered unlucky, then yes. But other than that, I don't think there's such thing as lucky or unlucky. It is important that my child's school instills religious values. I just can't wait when a school tries to teach my spawn that I'm evil. Sex outside marriage is usually immoral. In most cases, it is not a moral dilemma. A same-sex couple in a stable, loving relationship should not be excluded from the possibility of child adoption. I am yet to hear an argument against same-sex couple have adoption rights that is not grounded in religion or would not justify taking away children from single parents. Pornography depicting consenting adults should be legal for all the adult population. Even if it depicts lack of consent or not even adults, it should be legal for adults. It should be legal for adult audience as long as consenting adults act in it. What goes on in a private bedroom between consenting adults is no business of the state, as long as the consent can be established. No one can feel naturally homosexual. Honestly, I don't know if someone can feel naturally homosexual. I don't feel homosexual. However, we observe homosexual tendencies in all species of animals in which there are two sexes. Hence, I am willing to believe on word if someone say they feel naturally homosexual, and it's not a choice. These days, openness about sex has gone too far. I would say that oftentimes, sex still is a taboo, and we need to talk about it more. Let's hope I am not the new Hitler. Where do you think I should be? As we can see, according to the political compass test, Stalin would be very far left authoritarian. Hitler, who's oftenly characterized as far right fascist, is basically in the middle. Yes, Hitler would be a centrist. Margaret Thatcher, who's an icon, seems to be more to the right than Hitler. What's about that? My guess, I'm somewhere in the central part. And here it is, y'all. I am a lefty. I'm pretty sure I will be called far right within a week. So, what does it mean? I guess nothing. Good night, everyone.